Hello everyone, I'm back again, Matthew McKenzie, former mental health carer and unpaid carer to my brothers. And I want to give you updates for my monthly online carer news for March. Just to note quickly, this carer news really focuses on any important news and updates monthly regarding unpaid carers, not just unpaid carers, I suppose. I'd say, as you can see here, this is actually March. We had Young Carers Awareness Day. So there's a lot of events and news articles regarding young carers, that young person, 6 upwards, even below that age, caring for someone in their family, unpaid. So yeah, would have done this earlier, but got hit by COVID. No shame in that. It's hard to avoid it now. But what made it a bit easier on myself was that I had the vaccines before, so that reduced the effects of the COVID virus. And I urge unpaid carers who are caring for someone vulnerable or for themselves, in the sense, to get the vaccine if you can. So I'm going to try to make this video a bit shorter because the last one was almost half an hour. Don't want to drone on. As usual, I'll pick out not all the articles that I'm going to talk about, but some of that I found fairly important, and I categorized them as you can see here. Obviously you see a lot regarding young carers, especially when I start off with videos that I find on YouTube that are released during the month of March. Then I'll categorize it to my podcast series. I haven't done a lot on that, but I do hope to start that off again. And also for year 2022, I'm working on my latest book regarding poetry, on the awareness of raising the awareness of providing care and unpaid caring. And then I suppose the big sort of main part of the monthly online care news is this bit here. I've got, I think, 31 sections regarding any information or news regarding carers. As mentioned before, a lot of focus was on young carers. I think it was young carers action then. So you might, if you get older, my news items, a lot of it will show a bit about young carers for March. Then we have blog postings by myself, national organisation updates, resources for those needing support, and usually aimed at, again, carers. I do host a diverse ethnic or BAME carers forum, so especially on mental health. So this section is on mental health and how it affects Black people, Asians, and so on. And I do want to try and raise awareness of that, and also mental health news in general. So let's start then. If I go to the top about the videos, obviously I'm not going to click on them because I don't know if you'll hear the sound. But one of the videos I want to point out, which was actually done by Sutton Carers, who actually helped me when I run my Southwest London carers group to help promote that forum. And they've recently done a video again, I think it's on young carers, as you can see here, on young carers. I'm not going to play it, I don't think you'll be able to hear anything. I could try. It's basically about the support service that is provided by Sutton Carers for young adult carers. And I don't know if you'll hear it. So you can see here, Sutton Carers is a member network partner of Carers Trust. Obviously I can't play the video fully, 6 minutes long, but I have the link there if you want to play that at your own leisure. Certainly do that. Obviously I can only choose the one video, but as you can see, there's several here. View them at your own leisure. Going down to the news articles, one thing that I found fairly interesting was information about Carers UK, and where they welcome the government's amendment. Now, I don't know if you noticed already that the Health and Care Bill is being drafted really through government, and I urge carers who usually attend my carer groups that I run to take note of this, because a lot of the amendments, a lot of what's mentioned there will affect unpaid carers. Now, Carers UK are hopefully, they're on the ball regarding what's going on with the Health and Social Care Bill. one of the things that was worrying them was retaining the rights of unpaid carers. I think it's particularly in regards to hospital discharge. But there are other things as well. The CEO of Carers UK, Helen Walker, had said that they're pleased the government had considered the involving carers in hospital discharge. But there's a risk that this just wasn't going to happen. And she continued on saying that unpaid carers shared their experiences with Carers UK, and the evidence has shown how devastating hospital discharge can be for carers if they're not consulted, involved, or given the right information and support to care and safety and as well. Also, we had others who had talked about their concerns and given their views. So yeah, this was done actually at the end of March. Obviously, have a read that yourself and let other, spread the information regarding to other unpaid carers out there. Other things of interest, we're going back to young carers again. This I found quite interesting, again released in March by Doncaster Council. And this was about bullying and young carers. Now, the reason why I picked this one out to talk about in this video is that I do really hope that other councils and districts across the country help raise that awareness on their duties to unpaid carers, particularly young carers, because unfortunately they're prone obviously to bullying. Obviously, if you're caring for someone, you're in school and your peers find out, they're going to tease you and say really awful things. They're going to increase the stigma. Now, to combat that, hence, especially because it's Young Carers Awareness Day, Young Carers Rights Day, Doncaster Council, I'm sure a few others did do a statement on how young carers can be supported, and also to put down what makes a young carer. You can't highlight it. I was hoping it was going to. It states like what young carers often do, like to help family members, get up, get washed, dressed, to do the household chores, to do a lot, not only for who they're caring for, but I suppose in a way it helps the community. But the risk of that is, unfortunately, young carers can get bullied, and from that it leads to mental health difficulties. It also helps show what resources are available for young carers. So if a young carer did come across this page, they can get support. For the next item that I found important and wanted to talk about on this video was a blog released off of NHS England's and Improvements blog page. And this was, again, basically what it was raising awareness of was Young Carers Action Day. So it's not Young Carers Awareness Day, it's actually Young Carers Action Day. This is actually written by a young carer. It says Paul Cruz. I think she posted the blog, but the person who wrote it, I believe, was someone called Laura, who is actually NHS England's health champion. Quite young age 17. Very brave of her to talk about experiences and giving out her top tips to help young carers similar to herself and younger that would like to support, and what support that what she found valuable. So if I go over just two, obviously recognize that young carers have individual needs and they shouldn't be all treated the same, and listen and hear what young carers are saying. This goes back to your schools again. Not all schools are the same, and sometimes, unfortunately, when a young carer wanted to speak about the situation they're facing, people might not have time, teachers might not have time, or even the peers, young carers' friends may not have time. And this is a tragedy, really, because early on in your life, you need all the support you can get. But again, when you take time, have a look at the blog to see what Laura is getting at. Going away to another link here, and another one. This is actually written by the leader of the Liberal Democrats. They have a big campaign regarding carers, unpaid carers and carers as well. This is actually the problem going around really regarding COVID tests. I did mention that early on in the video, I got hit by COVID. Now that's not so bad because I'm more of a distance carer, so I'm not actually with my brothers. It's down the road who I'm caring for. But can you imagine if you're an unpaid carer and you got hit by COVID and you're only living next door, COVID positive, or if you're not? Problem is, if you are, the risk is to the person that you're caring for. They are vulnerable. So rightly so, Unpaid carers cannot often afford to purchase testing kits. I do not know how much they cost, but the Liberal Democrats wrote, he wrote this blog saying that we must end the tax on carers. They felt it was irresponsible and heartless for the Conservative government to abandon free COVID testing. Obviously, not going to go through a lot of it. It's a shame. I mean, I don't think they need to make the money, but it's the ads that's sort of getting away. But what they've done here is they've calculated it as well, the cost per year regarding what carers are trying to do. They saved the country so much regarding the unpaid care provided, and it's just, I suppose, it's a kick in the gut when unpaid carers are now having to worry about the cost of COVID testing. So the next item, obviously I can't cover them all because I'm hitting almost about 30 items regarding unpaid carers. But one of the last bit I thought was really important to pick out was we have the CQC, the Care Quality Commission, on their campaign Because We Care. And the reason I picked this out is the CQC can only do as good regarding the monitoring, assessing health and social care services. And the reason that it can only do as good at is what's being told to them by those who use the services, that being your patients, service users, or those that are caring for them, hence the unpaid carers. And as you can see here with this campaign, which is often called Because We Care, they say that they're asking that we need to understand the quality of care people get from services like hospitals, care homes, GPs, or any type of health and social care. This is only going to work, as mentioned, on feedback. Now, what we don't want is a situation where carers and services or patients are feeding back to the CQC when things sort of go wrong. What we want to hear, and I often tell members of my groups, is to feedback to the CQC, whether it's good or wrong or right, whatever, on how services work. Now, if they get a lot of feedback stating the services are doing well, the CQC can monitor and take that into account. Obviously, if there's a situation where there's a lot of feedback on something that's been flagged up, that something isn't working quite well, there's been a lot of complaints, this helps the services, this helps the CQC to try and find out what's going on. They may inspect it, they call up. The CQC, when it comes to them, they do have the power, they have a lot of responsibilities to really clamp down hard on services that are not doing what they should do for those who use those services. But please, when you get the chance, please have a look on the site, on the campaign, feedback to them. It's in the end, it benefits everyone. Going back to my new online newsletter, and I'll be really brief. I'm going to go down, I suppose, to the next part here, which is on diversity. I know BAME isn't really used much anymore, and I can see why, because when it comes to mental health and other forms of the equality and diversity, you want to home in more, not just squash all the ethnic groups together. So one, you could say black mental health or Asian. But I've put BAME for now. Eventually I will change it. But one thing again that stuck out of interest was the problem of racism. This article I took from The Voice, how racism in schools are to blame for mental health decline. And when you get that mental health decline, you're not going to be focusing a lot on your studies, not going to get the best that you can on the important part of your life as a school pupil. What the Voice online mentioned is that unfortunately school pupils have claimed that the impact of racism is causing their mental health to decline, as a leading charity supporting vulnerable children, that actually been the Anna Freud Center, and they've launched the resources that can be used in schools. They've also put out why they feel this is a big problem. I'm not going to go into this too much because again, I'm trying to shorten down my video, really, otherwise I'll just go on so long. It's still a really sad tragedy that we still have potentially bright pupils in school, but unfortunately, with racism, it hurts everyone, not just the person, but it spreads. As the school does badly out of this leads on to the community and eventually leads on to society. No one really can get any benefit of this, and rightly so. The Anna Freud Centre has pointed this out and will use a campaign and present their findings and what needs to be done. I'll probably pick up one bit from it. It says, Jamie Smith, director of the Anna Freud Centre Schools Division, said that it was time to recognise the significant racism can have on mental health with the release of the new anti-racism materials. And again, to be honest, young people, not the young carers, but young black people, young ethnic people need that support, especially if there's a racism problem in school. And I know a lot of schools will say, oh, there's no racism here, but unfortunately, racism can be covert as well. Going to the next bit, there's lots of reforms within the Mental Health Act, not just the Health and Social Care Bill, but we've got the Mental Health Act reform. And Mind, one of the largest mental health charities out there, have issued a statement on reform for the Mental Health Act must come now if we're to see an end to, and again, mentioned structural racism in mental health services. Again, a big problem. It's not just schools. This can continue on to mental health services where, again, diverse ethnic groups, black people, can be most vulnerable. And this is, again, unfortunately, it's not needed. I'll point out a few things off of Mind's statement saying that more than 1 in 10 calls to Mind's legal line in 2021 were about the Mental Health Act, as the number of people detained under the Act increased by 12% from December 2020. Now, the Mind analysis of the NHS data shows that over 12,000 adults were detained under the Mental Health Act. Nearly 5,000 were given community treatment order, and last year supposed that the calls answered by Mind's legal line, of which 988 were related to the Mental Health Act. And I'm sure it's not escaped Mind's attention. So a lot of them are ethnic people, black people, Asian people. It goes on to, as I say, the virtual conference, the Mind and Race on the Agenda, sponsored by the Garden Court Chambers, explored the urgent need for Mental Health Act reform and how they achieve racial equity within mental health services, hearing from people from their own experience of mental health problems. A big problem which needs, again, to be tackled. It cannot continue, as you know, no one really benefits from this, particularly the services, mental health services. Last two items, this one's from the Royal College of Psychiatrists, because we're going on to the last bit of my online carers news, mental health news. This is from the Royal College of Psychiatrists, again, as I've mentioned with Carers UK, with Mind, issuing statements regarding, this is going back to the Health and Care Bill, they're stating that hundreds of psychiatrists urge MPs to support workforce amendments. So it's not just amendments regarding hospital discharge or the Mental Health Act changes. Again, psychiatrists are feeling the pressure regarding the workforce. I'm not going to fully cover it, but it did state that more than 340 psychiatrists have written to their local MPs asking for the support to an amendment of the healthcare bill, requiring the government to publish regular and independently verified workforce numbers, because they think something missing here. In turn, states here from Dr. Adrian James, who is the president of the Royal College of Psychiatrists, stating that more than 1.4 million people are waiting for specialist mental health support across England. There's a chronic shortage of psychiatrists and other skilled professionals, which means many are waiting far too long for treatment. Now, this needs to be taken account into this bill before it's published and making recommendations when the resources are not there. So, rightly so, the College of Psychiatrists are making that noise now, saying, look, this needs to be looked into before the bill's finished. Last thing about this, I suppose, about monthly news is another organisation, the British Psychological Society, doing the bit again. They're responding to the NHS backlog, which is increasing, and they would want urgent action to achieve parity of esteem between mental and physical health. Now, going away from that, I've just volunteered for my local hospital regarding the importance of what support is given to mental health patients. We can't just think of mental health patients using the mental health services alone. There is an important link between mental health and physical health. BPS recognise this, and they state that urgent action is needed to achieve parity of esteem. The word itself, parity of esteem, means nothing unless the resources are there. If there's no resources, people suffer. And the sad fact is that those using mental health services, their physical health suffers. There's no doubt about it. Many die before the time because their physical health is overlooked. We can't expect service users to be on the ball straight up and say, look, there's a problem physically here regarding what sort of support they need. A lot may fall on families and unpaid carers to advocate and report on this, but again, a lot of it, and rightly so, may fall on the patient. They're using the services, they need that support. But anyway, this is my monthly online news report for March. I'll try and make sure I do the next one for April a lot sooner, but again, when you're sick, you can only do so much. I'd like to say thanks for watching, and I'll catch up again soon.